Hi, folks. Welcome back. Tom, today we are talking about loyalty. Customer loyalty is huge because if you don't have loyalty, you got somebody who comes and uses your product or service once and then they're gone. Uh, but let's kind of backtrack a little bit as far as loyalty is concerned, and let's look at the first interaction that a customer has with your brand. And that's usually the tagline, right?
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
that
So
kind of,
what
that kind
I
of
wanted
sets
to
up the
do,
interaction.
it's the first point of the interaction. And we just did a podcast on the trends for 2016 and Facebook was a big part of that trend. And when you think about interacting with Facebook, you think about, well, the content's there and I want to read the content. And if I like the content, I'll become loyal. But really what starts loyalty at the very first level is headlines, taglines, captions, and brief snippets of content that draw people in. Because unless they see that and it connects with them, then they're just going to skip over your content. And they can do it even if they're on your website because they can leave your website very quickly. So throughout social media and throughout your web content, you want to think about your strategic approach to these taglines. And for the most part, I'm going to talk about taglines, but this includes really anything that's brief content. Could be a header, a paragraph header, or like I said, a caption. And so where I want to start with taglines and customer loyalty really comes back to you understanding the purpose and the mission of your company. That's really the starting point, because to build customer loyalty, you have to understand why people are loyal. And I know you might think that's common sense, but a lot of companies still don't get that and still don't understand it. That's why you see real generic taglines out there that basically are variations of we're the best, or we have the best this or the best that, but not really tapping on the value of what they're providing to their customers and their clients. One of the ways we could start talking about this, I guess, would be why is this so important and what actually is customer loyalty? And I want to just talk about this briefly. The internet has created a whole new level of customer loyalty, and there's a two-edged sword behind this. The first part of the sword is that people don't like all of the choices they have to make. I mean, it's ridiculous. For the smallest thing that you have to buy, you have hundreds of choices. Minimum, in some cases, thousands of choices. So once we find something that does the job for us and fits with us, we like to stick with it. That's number one. And then number two is the internet gives us the opportunity to build the loyalty by communicating to people on a regular basis, telling our story, and connecting with them through the content that they prefer reading. So that's why customer loyalty has become more important, and it'll become even more important in 2016. And it's also a great opportunity for you to introduce new products and services that are excellent because the loyalty's there waiting to happen. And the way a tagline impacts this is, like I said, it's the first impression. And because of the way people scan websites and scan copy and content online, the tagline has to grab them right away. And like I said, the biggest mistake people make is being too broad or too general in their tagline, or developing a tagline that makes sense internally, but doesn't make sense to the rest of the world. So I want to talk more about taglines. I think it's going to be important.
Okay, let's talk. I want to kind of look at we talk about customer loyalty too, especially when it comes around when we talk about taglines and looking at that way. Can you consider even going to Facebook from a customer loyalty standpoint? And from a reason, I'll give an example. If I go to Facebook, there's certain people that I am interested in what they post, and it's not a brand. We're not talking about brand. These are just people who I'm connected to.
Right.
I like what they post because they always post interesting, thought-provoking articles that don't live on Facebook. So I go to check out their feed to see what they've posted, so then I can leave Facebook and go somewhere else. So I can go to those other websites to read interesting content. Those little interesting little snippets that you're talking about, those little headlines, become important for me because I scan them and go, what do I want to know? I want 30 seconds of inspiration. Where can I go to get that?
That's right. And what you're talking about really is the concept of sharing ideas, and it could be services or products as well, based on the tagline that's been picked up on. And that's one of the ways that things can really take off on Facebook, because the tagline grabs you and then people run with it. And I want to give you 3 tips today on how to create an effective tagline. And we have a lot of content on taglines. I have a chapter of it in my book. It's on our websites. It's all over the place. But I want to narrow it down for 2016 in this way. First of all, know your value. And when I mean know your value, know what type of impact you have on your customers. And there's really 3 broad categories to think about. The first one is, are you a service-based organization? If you're service-based, then you have to focus on the details of that service in your tagline. I'll get to that in a second. Or are you operationally focused, which would be that you are very, very efficient. And so because of that, you're a low-cost leader. The third area then would be, are you technically focused, which is you have the best, the most efficient, the highest technology available. And because of that, price is not as big an issue, but you are the leader from a technology standpoint. So we have these 3 options: service, operations, or technology. You really need to pick one of these first and know your value. Most people in the US right now, most businesses in the US are service-based companies. And so service is one I want to use as an example today. So once you know that you're a service-based company, then you take the value, then you take that value and you find out what is your focus, and you be very direct around that focus. Like, let's take a company like Nordstrom. You might think that Nordstrom is a product-focused company, but they're not. They are a service-focused company. You can go to Nordstrom and get help in buying clothing, and the pricing is going to reflect that. It's not the cheapest place to go. So Nordstrom needs to, in their tagline, really focus on the value that you get from dealing with folks that really know that clothing line and how to get you into the right clothes or shoes or whatever it is. And then the third part of this then is to take those 2 parts, knowing your value and focusing on the value, and getting creative with something that's interesting or unique or draws people in. Right. And by doing that, then you're using both art and science to create maybe an 8 to 10 word phrase that can catch on and can be used to build loyalty. And then one more point I want to make is, keep in mind that there's a difference between a tagline and a slogan. A tagline has to have a message with it. A tagline has to say something where people go, oh yeah, that I understand. I'm going to go look at that. A slogan like Nike's "Just Do It" is a branding piece of content that really has no relevance to what it is you actually do. It's just part of your branding or image. Slogans are great to support your loyal following, but slogans do not bring in loyal followers, especially for most companies out there that don't have the brand awareness of a Nike. So you've got to get more targeted. You've got to focus on knowing your value and explaining it in about 8 to 10 words. And then once you've done that, you can use slogans next to your logo or whatever, but that's not the starting point.
So what's the best way to start, like, brainstorming ideas? I mean, is there a certain amount of which people should be involved in this process to be able to come up with the tagline? What people in your business should be together? I mean, should it be marketing? Should it be the CEO? Who should it be?
Yeah, it should definitely be a mix of people, because there's a lot of taglines written out there by 1 or 2 people. And I like the approach of having a tagline that starts as a brainstorming session. So I would have folks from sales and marketing. I would have folks from leadership. I would have folks from product development, and have a pretty wide list of taglines built, and then start narrowing it down to the ones that really resonate. And you might start your tagline process like this. Let's say that you're a home builder, right? And so right off the bat, if you're a home builder, you've got to decide, well, what type of home builder are we? Are we more focused on the service side, that we are going to be here to hold your hand and give you the best house that you could possibly imagine? Are you more focused on the operational side, which is, we're going to give you a great price for this home, but don't look for us for tons of service? Or are you on the technology side, which is, we're going to build you a house like no one else has ever seen, and you're going to pay a ton of money for this, but it'll have all the technology you could ever see. If you are a home builder on the operational side, let's say, then you have to really explain what, where the value comes from, and where you save money through a process that's very sound. So your tagline would start with something like, building the home of your dreams at a price that works for you. Building the home of your dreams with a process that works. You might even tie into that, building the home of your dreams with a process, with an efficient process for over 20 years or something like that. So what you're doing is you're tying it in to the idea that you've got great price value, and you have price value because of a process that works, and you have loyal fans because of that process, right? And because they were looking for a home that was priced effectively. That is a strategic way you go about developing a tagline. You would not have a tagline that is building the home of your dreams if it is going to be a lower priced home, because that's not going to connect with the loyal following. So it's an art and a science, and it's a process in itself. But I think, bringing people together and starting with a brainstorming session, maybe coming up with 20, 25 taglines, even coming up with the words that it should be used in the taglines, that's really a starting point. And then from that, some winning taglines will emerge.
Now, is it something that in this process, would you want to bring in some key clients or key customers that might be able to, if you have a customer advisory board or something to that effect, would you want to bring some of those people in to review them to find out what resonates?
I think it would be better to, rather than showing them taglines, because they'll basically tell you that it looks fine to them for the most part. I would ask them specifically, why did you hire us, or why did you purchase from us? What value did you receive from us? And then listen very closely to what they say. If they say things like, you guys had a great price and I got a great quality home for the price that you charged me. Or if they say, working with Jim was such a great experience, I want to, refer him to everybody I can. Then from there, you start to find out, well, our focus should be service, or our focus should be, operational. Or they might say to you, you had the best sound, efficient home that I've ever lived in, and we didn't mind paying more because we got the quality. Then you start to realize, oh, okay, well then maybe we're on the side of quality and the side of, structurally sound homes that you can't find anywhere else or whatever. Then that kind of feedback goes into the brainstorming session to keep you focused. And then from this, should come some tagline ideas that can really work for you. And then you can use variations of that idea throughout your content, throughout your social media. But keep in mind, for the most part on your website, you'll want 8 to 10 word tagline that really sums it up.
Okay. One of the great things is if you got the great tagline, it will start to build. It reminds your current customers and customers that have purchased from you in the past, whether it's a product or service, it will remind them when they hear your tagline, oh yeah, that's why I use this company, if it's a service-based or a purchase product from them.
That's right. It reinforces the brand with them as well. There's so many win-wins, and it is the starting point for loyalty, and loyalty is so important. And loyalty is so valuable because once you have it and you maintain it through good marketing efforts through the year, you've got a stream of revenue that will come into your company. You have a stream of referrals. There's just lots of good things that happen from that. I will say, though, that when you go to write your taglines, it might be a good idea to have someone who is a tagline expert or someone who has written taglines before that resonate with you to maybe offer some input, because it's really hard to get outside of your company and see your company from your customer's eyes. And sometimes you become so close to it that you think that tagline's great when really it is not connecting with other people.
That is a good idea. Just get some other eyes on it that are outside the organization that can give you some feedback. Well, Tom, what are the key action items for our listeners and viewers?
Well, I think the starting point is to really decide which of the 3 marketing disciplines that we mentioned earlier is your company a part of. And those 3 disciplines are service, operations, and technology. And there's a great book called The Discipline of Market Leaders that you should really read, that would help you understand how to build a great tagline and customer loyalty. But that has to come first. And then once you've got the tagline in place, you can develop a loyalty plan in itself. And that loyalty plan is going to be based on a content marketing strategy, listen to the previous podcast where we talked about content through various channels and use of Facebook and so forth. In a lot of ways, that content strategy is also a loyal building plan, a plan to build loyal customers. And then one of the things that we're talking to our clients a lot about in this year is going to be building an army of loyal customers to spread the word about your product or services. And it could be as simple as a referral. It could be as simple as, getting people to like your Facebook page, requesting people that like their page to like your page. All of that is building an army of loyal followers to spread the word. And then finally, the last action item I have is, go evaluate your current tagline, and not just your taglines, but what you do on captions and so forth, and start rewriting those with a more strategic purpose and with the purpose of building a loyal following. And I think you'll see it'll bring good return for you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. And folks, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.